Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Cycle 5858. I am Amish Cycle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Like a monster hurricane, now the horror revealed, the death toll growing tonight. What our team has found after Hurricane Melissa, images of the devastation coming in, slamming into Jamaica as a Category 5 hurricane. All of Jamaica declared a disaster area. Tonight's families who were holding on to parts of their homes to survive this. Lee Goldberg with the new track in the U.S. tonight. The heavy rain and wind hitting the northeast tomorrow. Also breaking the verdict. The former deputy charged with killing Sonia Massey in her kitchen asked why he didn't use his taser instead of a gun. Tonight, what the jury has decided. The teacher shot by a first grader tonight for the first time. The body camera video showing the moments after that teacher was shot by a 6-year-old. Tonight, the government shutdown day 29. More than 40 million Americans set to lose food benefits. Republicans blaming Democrats. Democrats blaming Republicans who they say have refused to address health insurance premiums set to skyrocket for 20 million Americans. Just hours from now, President Trump and China's President Xi, will there be a trade deal? And President Trump tonight and what he's now saying about a third term. Back in the U.S., the dramatic rescue the seniors saved from a fire, first responders carefully carrying them to safety. From Paris tonight, the breaking headline involving a heist at the Louvre, what authorities have now revealed. And now in New York City, authorities say thieves dressed as construction workers here, stealing $3 million in jewelry, this time from a home. Along the east coast tonight, 5 homes collapsing into the ocean. The dramatic rescue, the dog clinging to the side of a cliff, the firefighter rappelling down to try to get to that dog. With rescuers saying the dog did when they got to him. There is news tonight a murder suspect freed by the state where they're now searching. And the driver who pulled over choking, what he was choking on, and the extraordinary timing that saved her.
World headquarters in New York. This is World News Tonight.
Good evening, we begin tonight here with Hurricane Melissa, the monster.
Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley will hold a news conference today on the Biden administration's targeting of Republicans. House Republicans just released new documents revealing a far larger scope of an FBI investigation into the January 6th Capitol riots and the 2020 election. It was called Operation Arctic Frost, and House GOP are saying those documents show Arctic Frost actually may have targeted 156 Republican officials, lawmakers, more than what we were first told. Here's House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan.
What we've learned is it was much broader, much more expansive than we ever thought. This is the same Jack Smith who we already know spied on 8 United States senators. Now we learn all this. Was this a political operation you guys are running against President Trump? How many other members of Congress did you spy on? Those are the kind of questions you want to ask Jack Smith and see what kind of answers we get from the guy who ran this whole operation.
And Focus Now, Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor, former Republican congressman of Utah. Have you ever seen anything like this? You were chairman of Oversight. What is happening?
The size and scope of this is just unparalleled. 156 people that we know of. There is a separation of powers in this country, and yeah, what Jack Smith is allegedly doing was just a dragnet. What was the predicate to justify such a wide array, to such a net out there? That is absolutely stunning. I'm glad Senator Grassley's on top of this. He's one of the best in the business, best there's ever been in terms of oversight. I think the numbers and the gravity of what we're going to see are going to be absolutely stunning. And how they did this, why they did this, it's just not justified. You can't go after that many people. With what? And what charges were there? Relatively nothing.
Well, look, with all the documents that are coming forth now, will the public, do you think, be likely to see exactly how they were looking for these things? Because, I've interviewed Senator Blackburn about this. She was on the list. She can't figure out why in the world she would be on the list. And they were using wiretaps and all of that. I think it's worth the American public knowing how far they went.
Yeah, President Obama likes to go back and say, oh, he was scandal-free. But then you got to remember that it was the Obama administration that had allegations of spying on, the media, the Associated Press, James Rosen, others there. Remember what happened in the Senate under them. Then you have Biden come along. Now you've got what Jack Smith is doing here in his allegations. And the way he went after Donald Trump with bringing cameras in tow, guns ablazing into Mar-a-Lago to go through Melania Trump's unmentionables drawer. Like, seriously, this is...
Tonight, the new images of Hurricane Melissa's direct hit on Jamaica, the most powerful storm ever hit the country, carving a catastrophic path of destruction and leveling entire communities. The monster hurricane ripping off roofs, flooding streets, and cutting power to nearly 80% of the island nation. Homes, hospitals, airports all ripped apart. Thousands of tourists now trapped, unable to get out. Our team on the ground as the scale of the unfolding crisis becomes more clear. The death toll now rising after Melissa tore through Cuba and Haiti. The verdict just coming in. A jury convicting the former sheriff's deputy who shot Sonia Massey in her own home of second-degree murder. Her family reacts tonight. The chilling new footage, police with guns drawn entering the school after a teacher was shot by her 6-year-old student. Our first look tonight at the gun fired by the little boy. First responders rushing into a burning senior center, breaking down doors to save the people trapped inside. The high-stakes meeting, President Trump just hours from meeting China's leader. One issue of contention, illegal fentanyl coming into the U.S. Our exclusive access tonight inside of a Chinese fentanyl factory. Why they say they're not to blame. The move highs update the partial confession that could break open the entire case. The dramatic rescue on dog falling off a cliffside, somehow clinging to a ledge. Rescuers rappelling down with rope to save him. And the wild scene, a monkey loose inside of a Spirit Halloween store. Wait until you see how this one ends. Nightly News starts right now. This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yonas. And good evening. It was the...
Good evening. I'm Amna Nabaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the News Hour tonight, much of Jamaica is left with severe damage and no power in the wake of Hurricane Melissa as the storm batters Cuba and the Bahamas.
Vice President Vance and Charlie Kirk's widow host a college event in Mississippi, aiming to chart a path forward for the young conservative movement.
And federal funding cuts force many top researchers, including the man known as the Mozart of math, to consider leaving the U.S.
The worst case scenario, it's way down. Maybe these two closes down, I can no longer for my students. I have to find another option.
We're cut off from the rest of the world right now. Hurricane Melissa's mayhem through the Caribbean this Wednesday night. I need some help. Please, I need some help. The devastation and where the storm is headed now. The Bank of Canada slashes its key interest rate again. Why the central bank felt it was necessary and why future cuts may be unlikely. Calls for an apology from the American ambassador to Canada after his tirade over Ontario's anti-tariff ad.
The chief slipped off the cracker. I get it. You're ticked off.
Plus, the grit and glamour of the World Series as the Jays dodge defeat to even the score. Good evening and thanks for joining us. The most intense hurricane to hit Jamaica since records began has left a trail of devastation across the region. Now a Category 1 hurricane. It is heading to the Bahamas, and the islands it's already ravaged are dealing with disasters. In Haiti, the hurricane dumped such heavy rain there is extensive flooding across the country. At least 25 people there have died.
devastation across the region. Now a Category 1 hurricane. It is heading to the Bahamas. And the islands it's already ravaged are dealing with disasters. In Haiti, the hurricane dumped such heavy rain there is extensive flooding across the country. At least 25 people there have died, and others are missing. One death has also been confirmed in the Dominican Republic. And it barreled through Cuba overnight, causing widespread damage there. Jamaica's leader posted these areas of the devastation in his country. 8 deaths have been confirmed, and much of Jamaica is without power and difficult to access. Jackson Prosco has our top story tonight.
Jamaicans awoke to devastation. Homes are gone, hospitals flooded, the landscape forever changed.
A lot of my friends' house is gone. Nice.
In Black River, where the storm made landfall, there is catastrophic damage.
Yesterday it was very windy, scary. We have to oh my God, I'm next to home for safety.
77% of the island is now without power. Communications have largely been cut off, leaving officials with little sense of who may be missing or who may need help.
At the moment, what we're seeing preliminary assessment.
DemocracyNow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel has killed at least 104 people in Gaza, a third of them children. Journalist Mohammed al-Murawi and his wife were among the dead. They were sheltering in a tent in Sadat in central Gaza. Israel's killed at least 250 journalists in Gaza since October 7, 2023. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz claimed Hamas fighters were targeted in retaliation for the killing of an Israeli soldier in Rafah Tuesday. Hamas said it had no connection to the attack. Here's Abed Awaida, a Palestinian man who lost his nephew in an Israeli strike.
They struck us at 4 in the morning while we were sleeping. They killed us, and they killed the children at 4 in the morning while we were sleeping. They struck us.
Last week, when 2 Israeli soldiers died in Rafah, questions were raised about whether they drove over an unexploded ordnance. According to the Aid Group Humanity Inclusion, clearing Gaza of these ordnance will likely take between 20 to 30 years. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast. Hurricane Melissa made landfall in Cuba today as a strong Category 3 hurricane, according to the National Hurricane Center. Cuban authorities evacuated 3/4 of a million people ahead of the storm. Melissa hit Jamaica yesterday as a Category 5 hurricane, lashing the island nation with 185-mile-per-hour winds, leaving more than 500,000 people without power. We'll have more on this story later in the broadcast.
The
Pentagon confirmed Monday it carried out another 3 military strikes on 4 vessels in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing at least 14 people. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth again claimed the boats were being used for narco-trafficking without providing any evidence. One survivor was rescued by Mexican Navy authorities about 400 miles from the coast of Acapulco. As Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said Tuesday, her government does not support the strikes. Since September, the U.S. has carried out attacks on at least 13 boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific Ocean, killing a total of more than 50 people in strikes that have been widely condemned as illegal. The U.S. government secretly attempted to bribe an airplane pilot working for Venezuelan President.
Hurricane Melissa, blamed for dozens of deaths on a rampage across the islands of the Caribbean, flooding streets, destroying homes, and knocking out power. We're on the ground in hard-hit Jamaica.
Once the roof was gone, the walls had no chance.
Sheriff's Office! Also tonight, an Illinois sheriff's deputy is convicted of murder in the shooting death of a woman who called 911 to report a prowler.
She called for help, y'all, and she was murdered in her own home.
Presidents Trump and Xi about to meet face-to-face for the first time since the U.S.-China trade war broke out. And a few words about our feline friends in need, on this National Cat Day.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
John Dickerson is on assignment. Hurricane Melissa has left dozens of people dead as it tore across the Caribbean islands of Jamaica, Cuba, and Hispaniola. It was downgraded today to a Category 1, but still a dangerous storm. Melissa pounded Jamaica yesterday as a Cat 5, the most powerful hurricane ever to make landfall on the island. Jason Allen was there when it struck. Today, he got a look at the damage. The Monty Quinn is tracking Melissa as it heads now for the Bahamas. But we begin with Jason in Santa Cruz, Jamaica. Jason?
Maurice, and the main road that goes through Santa Cruz is just one lane of thick mud tonight. This was where a wall of water rushed down out of the...
With a leading economist in a moment, but first, let's remind you of our top stories this Thursday morning, beg your pardon. At least 34 people are known to have been killed by Hurricane Melissa. That number, though, is expected to rise as emergency workers start to reach those communities where almost nothing is left standing. The Chancellor Rachel Reeves has apologised to Prime Minister Keir Starmer for what she has called inadvertent error in not obtaining the proper licence for renting out her family home to move into number 11. The Conservatives believe her position is no longer tenable. She should resign. 5 new suspects have been arrested over the theft of priceless jewellery from the Louvre in Paris. Thieves broke into the museum early this month, exposing serious security flaws. Let's turn our attention back to Hurricane Melissa and the devastation it has wrought across the Caribbean. The true picture is starting to emerge this morning. Thomas Moore is here, our science correspondent. Thomas, we'll get onto the pictures and the before and after in a second. But some people are saying, hang on, there's been fewer hurricanes this storm season. So is climate change to blame for this? Has it played a part in this? What's the situation as you understand it?
Well, you can never get a trend from 1 year. What they are saying, the climate scientists who are looking at our warmer future, they're saying that the frequency of storms won't increase, but the frequency of intense storms will, because those warm waters will spiral those winds ever more strongly. So scientists in Imperial College have actually taken a quick look at Melissa, and they've said that the hurricane was made 4 times more likely as a result of human-induced climate change. It boosted wind speed by 7%, that's 11 miles an hour, and it increased the damage done by the hurricane too. So you can see there that climate change is making hurricanes much worse.
Let's take a look at some of the before and after pictures there, because talking about the cause, this really brings it home, because these are people's homes, of course, and businesses and livelihoods that have been absolutely destroyed. I think that's before and after in Black River in Jamaica. Talk us through the rest of them, Thomas.
Yeah, so this is Black River. It's the capital of St. Elizabeth Parish in the southwest of the country, and it bore the brunt of these 105-mile-an-hour winds. You can see the commercial district there. Keep an eye on that white building and the building to the right of it. That is the fire station. See what happens afterwards. Even that has been knocked to the ground. On the left there, you had some beachfront houses right on the water's edge. Now, they would have been pummeled by the 4-metre storm surge pushed ahead by these winds. But the wind...
I'm Phil Gale. Welcome to the day as the United States is massing more naval forces off the coast of Venezuela. President Trump is sending America's largest aircraft carrier to help stop the small boats that he says are transporting drugs to the U.S. His administration says 57 people have been killed in U.S. strikes on these alleged drug boats. On Wednesday, he said U.S. forces had almost completely stopped the drugs coming into America by sea. Speculations therefore growing about what the USS Gerald R. Ford mission in the Caribbean could be. Donald Trump says he hasn't ruled out strikes on land-based targets in Venezuela. He says the US is in armed conflict with the cartels there. But Venezuela accuses the American president of using drug trafficking claims to fabricate a war in Latin America.
US strikes on what it says are drug smuggling boats have been escalating for weeks. Dozens of people have been killed in the attacks in international waters. Donald Trump maintains it's part of a campaign to stop drugs flowing into the US.
The Navy has supported our mission to blow the cartel terrorists the hell out of the water. You see that? And you know, there are no boats water anymore. You can't find any. We're having a hard time finding them.
Despite Trump's claims, the deadly boat strikes have continued, and as the number grows, so do questions about their legality and motivation.
asesina civiles.
It murders civilians without providing information as to their identity, without providing the nature of the cargo aboard the vessels, and without providing any evidence on the imminent nature of an armed attack against U.S. forces. This is not self-defense, these are extrajudicial executions.
Venezuela says the boat strikes are part of a wider attack and aimed to overthrow President Nicolas Maduro's regime.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak, and here are this morning's headlines. Donald Trump hails as a great success his meeting with Xi Jinping in Busan as a one-year agreement on rare earth minerals is sealed. But Chinese President Xi says the US and China should avoid the cycle of retaliation. Centrist T66 and the far-right Party of Freedom are neck and neck in the Netherlands elections in what is a disappointing night for Geert Wilders' populist party, but one of the best ever showings for T66, whose leader, Rabia, could be the next Dutch Prime Minister. Police arrested third suspect in this month's heist at the Louvre Museum in Paris. This comes a day after prosecutors said two others had partially admitted involvement in the robbery of 88 million euros worth of jewels on the 19th of October. US President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping met in Busan in South Korea earlier today, their first encounter in 6 years. A successful meeting, according to Donald Trump, which yielded a one-year extendable trade deal on rare earth minerals. But Xi Jinping said Washington and Beijing should avoid a cycle of retaliation.
After nearly 2 hours of negotiations, US President Donald Trump said his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping was amazing and rated it a 12 out of 10. On board Air Force One, he spoke to journalists about some of the key decisions of their talks.
What are the major stumbling blocks that are left now to work through, and how soon do you think you could sign a trade deal with China?
Well, I think pretty soon. We have not too many major stumbling blocks. We have a deal, but all of the rare earth has been settled. That whole situation, that roadblock is gone now. There's no roadblock at all.
The US president listed a number of other achievements. He had dropped tariffs on China by 10% after making progress on fentanyl curbs. On Ukraine, the two presidents said they were going to work together and find a solution to bring an end to the conflict. Although many were expecting China to push Trump on Taiwan, it did not come up during the meeting. It was the first time Donald Trump and Xi Jinping were shaking hands again since 2019. The bilateral talks hope to ease tensions between the world's two largest economies.
Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the two leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then.
The Chinese president has said he wanted to finalize the details of the talks as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Trump has said he will be visiting China in April.
And for more on this meeting in Busan between
Canberra, possible showers. Melbourne, cloudy. Hobart, cloudy. Adelaide should be sunny. Perth, early showers. And Darwin, showers with a possible storm.
This is ABC News. Our top stories. US President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart have been on the sidelines of the APEC summit. Trade was the primary focus of the talks, with the deal set to have been reached on critical minerals and rare earths. Mr. Trump has also instructed the Department of Defense to immediately start testing nuclear weapons because of other countries' testing programs. Flowers and personal messages are being left at the nets at the Ferntree Gully Cricket Club in Melbourne after the death of a 17-year-old player. Ben Austin was practising on Tuesday afternoon when he was hit in the neck by a ball. He was rushed to hospital but died yesterday. The president of the club says the community is devastated. Hurricane Melissa has continued its devastating sweep across the Caribbean, leaving dozens dead, destroying homes and flooding neighbourhoods. At least 4 people are confirmed to have been killed in Jamaica, while Haiti's Civil Protection Agency says more than 40 people have died. The now Category 1 storm is crossing over the Bahamas and is expected to reach Bermuda. And more customers have come forward saying they couldn't reach 000 during last month's Optus outage. It's probably calls for a system overhaul, greater scrutiny of providers.
The Communications Minister has directed the industry watchdog ACMA to require providers maintain a public register of their network outages. More now on that top story, and we can bring you President Trump's comments on Air Force One after the meeting with Xi Jinping.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? It was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made. There wasn't too much left out there. And we've come to conclusion on many very important points, and we'll be handing that to you in a little while. We're happy with this.
Headline news this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump says his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea today was a great success. Mr. Xi, meanwhile, confirms they had reached a consensus. Among the deals reached, a reduction in Washington's tariffs on Chinese goods, as well as an extendable one-year deal on the supply of rare earths. Mr. Xi did not provide as much detail, but said their countries have good prospects for cooperation on AI, fraud, money laundering, among other sectors. The U.S. will resume testing nuclear weapons on orders of President Donald Trump. The American leader announced his decision before meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and a month after Beijing showed off its military arsenal in its Victory Day parade. Think tank Center for Strategic and International Studies estimates China now has about 600 atomic weapons, more than double from 5 years ago. The U.S. last tested a nuclear weapon in 1992. China now says it hopes the U.S. will fulfill its obligations under the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and honor its commitment to suspend nuclear testing and safeguard global strategic balance and stability. And ahead next hour, East Asia Tonight, our correspondents are here to tell us what we can expect.
I'm in Yeonseok in Gyeongju, South Korea, where major meetings are happening ahead of the APEC Leaders Summit starting tomorrow.
And I'm Tan Zi-Hui in Busan, and I'll have the latest on the outcome of the face-to-face between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Join us on East Asia Tonight at 6 p.m. Singapore-Hong Kong time, right here on CNA.
Africa News. The news.
No more independent electoral commission in Burkina Faso. On Tuesday, the Transitional Legislative Assembly approved the dissolution of the body, which has been in place for more than 20 years. It formalizes a bill adopted in July by the country's military rulers, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Under the new law, the Ministry of Territorial Administration will now be in charge of organizing elections. The junta described the commission as a waste of money and susceptible to what it said was foreign influence. When it seized power in September 2022, the military promised to restore a civilian government within 21 months. But in May last year, the junta extended the period of transition by 5 years and announced that Traoré would be allowed to contest the next presidential election. The military leaders have reduced ties with Western countries, including former colonial power France, and forged a closer strategic and economic partnership with Russia.
Ethiopia is currently negotiating with its creditors to convert commercial loans into concessional loans, which could significantly lower the interest rates on its debt. During a recent address to Parliament, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed stated that the nation's foreign debt has been reduced to less than $23 billion, prompting a halt on new commercial loan acquisitions. He outlined the government's strategy for managing foreign debt, focusing on restructuring existing loans to more favorable concessions. This initiative comes in the wake of previous implemented macroeconomic reforms that have already enabled the restructuring of between $4 billion and $4.5 billion in foreign loans. As the second largest economy in East Africa, Ethiopia began discussions last year to address its debt repayment challenges. As of September, the country's total external debt was reported to be over $23 billion.
The devastating aftermath of Hurricane Melissa has claimed dozens of lives and left a trail of destruction across the Caribbean. The powerful storm made landfall in Jamaica, is a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane with winds up to 295 kilometers per hour. As it moved to Cuba, the destructions only worsened. In Jamaica, reports indicate that at least one tragic death occurred when a tree fell on a baby. State Minister Abka Fitz-Henley confirmed the heartbreaking incident. The scene in Haiti is equally grim. The southern coastal town of Petit Goave has been particularly hard hit, with Mayor John Bertrand reporting at least 25 fatalities due to severe flooding. Many homes mountains.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.